to do this, you need a vacuum slash pressure hand pump. You need to be able to put pressure on this somehow. So again, other parts you had to buy. This switch did not come with the part I'm going to screw on, that brass fitting. I mentioned that in my list earlier. So you may have to buy that as well to do this. Where the two plugins go, or the plugins go, you can see I'm putting the Allen wrench in there. That Allen wrench is what you use to adjust when you want this to complete the circuit at what amount of pressure. It should be adjustable from, I believe, 3 to like 15 PSI. And they recommend you do this either way to see where it's at and then to kind of calibrate it, I guess. In order to do that, I kind of did a test setup here. You could use the actual wiring that you're going to plug in if you wanted. I just used kind of 2 jumper wires, and then I utilized my multimeter. And I set my multimeter to the ohm portion, and basically the way I had this working, and there's more than one way to do it, but with this, once it kind of zeroed out, that's when I knew the pressure switch kicked in. So again, I just twisted those wires around. It doesn't matter which one goes to which. There's no right or wrong here. We're just kind of making a circuit, a path, a full path to see when this full path is completed. So I used my pressure pump here for the first time, and it was actually set really high. I had to go pretty much right up to 15 pounds, and then you can see where the numbers changed on that ohm meter. You can see it went from nothing to zeros, basically, or from 1 to zeros. Either way, you could tell when it changed. So again, the switch can be adjusted by using a 3mm Allen key. You can tighten the screw down to increase the set point and loosen the screw to decrease it. So here's just one final example when you can see I finally got it down to pretty much right at 5 PSI that it's set to. Back to the special tools again. This terminal crimping tool is an open barrel crimping tool, and if you want to use the connections they send you for this adjustable pressure switch, you need to find or buy one of these. A separate video in the video description just about these, the crimping these style ones as well. It actually, for me, went pretty easy for something I never did before. You kind of crimp it until you hear it pop, actually, at least for the one that's just on the wire. You kind of know when it finished, and it worked pretty well for me. So here we go. I already did crimp these. I didn't show it on camera, but I did it. And you'll see to plug these in to this plug-in that they give you, to push them in, this red portion has to be pulled out, not all the way. I accidentally pulled it all the way, but it has to be out just a little bit before you can slide these in where they need to go. And you're going to insert these terminals into the plug with the crimped side facing the same direction as the plug locking tab. And you should be able to push it in place until you hear it click. And again, we're just going to utilize both the outside plugs, so you're going to skip the middle one. And part of what I didn't show here, of course, is that this brown wire, the second one that I'm going to plug into this connection, this brown wire is ran through the firewall and up to the ground wire of that secondary relay. And the other side that I had plugged in first, that just has an eyelet on it, so I can ground it out somewhere. So of course that connector should plug into your high pressure switch. And it does, of course, also need a vacuum hose or boost, source, vacuum and boost source. And what I did is I teed into the line that goes to our fuel pressure regulator. There's a vacuum line that goes to that. That's the one I wanted to use. I put a T in there, and then I did that because that way, ideally, if that hose comes off, then not only is, if that hose comes off, the pressure switch isn't going to activate our secondary pump, so that's bad. But if that hose comes off, your car's probably not running right anyway because your fuel pressure regulator also is not knowing the right pressure. Now, as far as mounting this up, I had what I thought was a pretty good idea, and it turned out good. So if you want to copy me on this, feel free. So since I'm running high-Z injectors, this is a piece that we don't use anymore. I honestly don't remember what it's called, but it mounts kind of right on the firewall there. And this is a good casing I can use. So I kind of pried out the stuff on the inside, and I utilized this metal on the outside, and that high pressure switch fit in there like perfectly. And then I did some bending to it so I could run that plug-in out the bottom. So the bottom portion is where the plug-in will go, and then the top portion is where I'm going to run my hose. And then just so it wasn't just like bouncing around in there, I put a little bit of rubber stuff around the outside of it. It made it fit a bit more snug as well. And then the way this thing works, there are 2 spots on each side where a screw goes on each side of it. So here you can see where I had that mounted up. I thought it was pretty neat because it also looks like an OEM piece this way. But of course, you can mount that however you want. All right, and remember how I said I ran that brown wire through the firewall? Here it is. This brown wire is ran to the black wire of our secondary relay. You could ignore that white one. That was a different thing I was working on that I didn't end up doing. So you just need to connect it directly to that black wire. So again, secondary relay, you can see that that blue wire, our trigger wire, is connected directly to the red positive wire, which goes directly up to our battery, with fuse in between, of course. And then this is the ground. So to ground it out, we are utilizing that black wire that goes to the brown one, which runs up to our pressure switch that we just installed. And if you just want to follow my path of wiring under the hood, you can see I ran the brown wire over. The brown wire runs into the pressure switch. The other brown wire that runs out of the pressure switch runs up to a different grounding spot.